Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Oops. Morning. We're just while we're waiting for a few more people to pop onto the screen. If you don't have a pencil or paper in front of you, you might want to grab one now, because I know Jack's going to be using that throughout the session. So you might want to nip off and get some, and we'll be starting in a minute or so. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. It's really nice to see you all, and welcome to the Accidental Learning, Mistakes, Experiments and Creativity Workshop. Our session today is part of our Imagine If digital conference series, and this year we're exploring the theme, Imagine If Creativity Gave Us the Freedom to Learn Without Inhibition, to accept our mistakes as part of a lifelong journey. So I'm Charlotte Dack, and I'm one of the area managers here at Culture Bridge North East. And for those who don't know much about us, we're one of Art Council England's bridge organisations. So there's a big network, a national network of bridge organisations. And we work together with the cultural sector and the education sector to make sure that children have access to a really rich cultural education. So really, I'm just going to do a quick reminder of the housekeeping information that was sent out in your joining packs. So things like remaining muted unless you're speaking. You might want to keep your settings on speaker view so you can see whoever's presenting on a full screen rather than everyone in the room, but that's up to you. And if you could make sure you have your name and or your organisation written clearly in your Zoom screen as well, just because we're going to be taking attendance. And you might also like to add your pronouns in there as well. So if you've got any questions or comments throughout the session, I'm going to be monitoring the chat box. So please just pop them in there and we will answer those at the end. And if you'd like to see any closed captions for the session, you'll need to go down to the bottom, click on live transcript on the CC button, and then click on show subtitle. And just a reminder that we are recording the session, and you did consent to that just before, and we will be using this as a digital resource so you can share it with your friends and watch it again in the future. Please feel free to share your workshop experiences on our social media, and I'll put those hashtags into the chat. And just before I hand over to our speaker for today, I'm going to introduce Danny. Hi, Danny. Danny's our digital stage manager for our conference this week. And if you've got any technical issues today during the session, just message Danny in the chat function and she'll be able to help. So finally, it's time to hand over to Jack, our speaker for today. He's from Hotspur Primary School in Newcastle, and I hope you all have a really great session. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Lovely to see everybody this morning. Thank you so much for coming along and taking part in this workshop and session. I'm just going to share my screen now so I can share my PowerPoint, and then we can start. Okay, so accidental learning, making mistakes, experiments and creativity, which is an exploration on the importance of taking risks and experimenting through the arts. My name's Jack Gardner, as already mentioned. I'm a year 2 teacher at Hotspur, I'm also the arts lead at the school. I've been here for about 8 years. I am talking to you now from Hotspur School in a quiet room, tucked away. But prior to being a teacher, I was a drama workshop facilitator. So my background is in drama, and I've got a real passion for creativity and the arts, and trying to create an environment where children can flourish within the arts and work creatively. So I'm sure lots of shared interests with lots of the people who are here today. And I feel as though what I'm sharing with you today is my learning journey. So I'm by no means an expert in what I'm talking about, but I'm very passionate about it, and I want to share what we've been doing at the school. The way it's going to work is it'll be bookended with some interactive drawing exercises, and then in the middle of the session there'll be a couple of case studies, some of the projects that we've worked on within the school that I'd like to share with you. So at the most, I hope that you take something away from it. You might feel inspired by something that we've done, or at the very least, you can just nod and agree with plenty of things that I've said. Great. Okay. So let me introduce the school to you. For those of you who don't know, Hotspur Primary School, we are a mixed state school in Heaton in the east end of Newcastle upon Tyne. We have 457 children currently enrolled from age 3 to 11. And we have a very broad demographic within the school, very mixed, quite multicultural, but also in terms of economically, we have a lot of families who I would describe as very culturally rich, but not necessarily economically rich. And it's that mix that we have in the school that makes it quite special, I feel. The school was rated good in a recent Ofsted inspection, and we're part of the Ousburn Learning Trust, along with 8 other schools and 6 partner organisations in the east end of the city. We have currently 43.6% pupil premium, which is higher than average, I suppose. And within the school, we are very passionate about the arts. It's part of everyday life to us. It's also how we explicitly teach, but also we teach through the arts as well. We have an art curriculum that is a spiral curriculum, so all the children access and are involved in sketching, painting and sculpture every year as they go through. But alongside that, and what I'm really interested in, is we do a lot of whole school cross-curriculum projects, which everybody's involved in. And that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about today, those case studies, looking at some of those projects. We were recently marked platinum in our Arts Mark status, which was very exciting. And we're currently putting together a new case for that. So to kick us off, I thought what we could do was some experimental drawing. Now, some of you may have done this before. I'm sure plenty of you have. But I use experimental drawing as a way to free people up at the start of an art session in my class. So what we found after the pandemic was that children were a little bit reluctant to throw themselves into something creatively. There was a certain fear of freeing themselves up, and experimental drawing is a really good way of freeing ourselves up, making mistakes and learning from them. So on your screen, you should have some fruit. And if we were able to meet, which would be great, I would have the fruit there on the table in front of you. What I'd like you to do, if you've got a pen or pencil, a piece of paper in front of you, is I'd like you to draw the fruit, but I don't want you to look at the piece of paper. So I'd like you to just stare at the screen and have a go at drawing what you can see in front of you without looking at your paper at all. Please have a go at doing that. Thank you. I'm trying to do this myself, and automatically it's quite tricky to, you keep wanting to look down at a piece of paper. So that's one of the exercises which we'll do with the children. There's a few other similar experimental drawing exercises. Once you've had a go at doing that, I don't know if you've got 2 pens or 2 pencils in front of you, have a go at drawing the fruit. You can look at the paper this time, but have a go at drawing the fruit with both pencils or pens at the same time. And if you've had a go at that, there's another little experimental drawing which you might want activity to do, and that is to take a look at the look at the fruit in front of you. And I would tell the children to take a photograph. So take a photograph of the fruit, put it into your mind's eye, and then close your eyes, and then have a go at drawing the fruit with your eyes closed. I'll just give another 20 seconds or so for you to finish that little bit, and then I'll carry on talking. Okay, and some of the other experimental drawing exercises that I would perhaps do with my class or with a group include having a go at drawing with your other hand. So I'm left-handed, I would use my right hand, or using robot arms, where you would have your arm at a right angle and try and draw the fruit or object in front of you in a very stylized, jagged kind of way. Why do we do that? Well, because it frees us up. A lot of children and a lot of people, when they want to draw something, they have a fixed idea of what they're looking at, and we're using our analytical side of our brain. So these exercises free ourselves up. They make us realize it's okay to make mistakes. One thing that I say to my class quite a lot is every time you make a mistake, your brain grows, because it's looking for new neurological pathways. It's found that it can't work something out, so it's trying to find a new way of working it out. And when we do these exercises with the class, they look at the work in front of them, and at first it may seem a little bit chaotic, but our brains are wired to look for patterns within the chaos, to see mistakes and to see new images that they previously wouldn't have imagined putting down onto paper. So it's quite freeing and useful for the creative process. There's some pictures of the children in my class having to go at these exercises, and there's a couple of quotes there. I was scared at the start of doing this exercise because it was, not what we're used to. It was hard, but exciting, hard and exciting, a new experience, weird. And then on the next slide, it was the opposite of making good work. I wanted to make mistakes. So there you have it there. That's the great quote about how it went for those guys. Another exercise I might do, which I think the images on the two photographs on the right-hand side are from, is drawing to music. I'll put on a piece of classical or jazz or whatever music in the classroom, and that's what those images are from. Having a drawing to the music and asking the children not to let the pencil leave the page, but to move with the music as we're going along. Another exercise which you can do, which I do at home with my children, is the safe transfer line, and that was created by the artist Dennis Oppenheim. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but you can sort of see that's hit the artist there with his son. And how that works is somebody will be at the back of the person who's got their pencil. Will have a piece of paper on the wall, and the person who has the pencil on the piece of paper has to move with the finger of the person behind them. So in this case, they've used a pen, but what we would do is have the person behind would have their finger on their back and perhaps draw. What I would say is draw your home, and they would draw their home on the back of the person with a piece of paper, and then they would have a go at doing that on the paper on the wall. And you can actually line people up. So eventually I've had it where we've got 10 people in a line, and the person at the back is drawing the image, and it's almost like Chinese whispers. You're passing down the image all the way to the front, and it creates quite fun images at the end. So those were some of the experimental drawing exercise to free ourselves up. I'm now going to talk about, might get onto another one at the end, but we're now going to have a look at some case studies from Hotspur Primary School, some of the projects that we've done. So one of the things I'm quite keen on at Hotspur is community of practice. And what that is working together and as a community, and we've got sort of a diagram which explains it very clearly. Community relationships built up through discussion, activities and learning, domain, area of shared interest and key issues, and practice, body of knowledge, methods, stories, tools, development. And when they get together, they're a community of practice. It's where we have the whole community of the school working together with the same intent. And no matter how much somebody is engaged with it creatively, just being there, just being a part of a project has huge benefits on somebody's emotional and social well-being. And it makes them feel really special and part of something. We all know that from our own lives. If we're part of a choir or a community group, we feel that we belong to something. And that's been incredibly important over the last couple of years, particularly with the lockdowns. Now, the school's intent, as we've been going through the last couple of years, has reflected where we are with lockdowns and with the pandemic. So during the first lockdown, we didn't have much government guidance in terms of what we should be delivering with regards to the curriculum. So we thought it was incredibly important that we focused in on this idea of community of practice and community of intent. And that the focus for the first lockdown was ensuring the well-being, the social and emotional well-being of the children was intact and they felt still a part of the school. And that's where this project comes in. It's called The Quest. So a couple of weeks into the lockdown, I drew this picture, which you have in front of you. It's a map. It's a map of the East End of Newcastle. And if you know the East End of Newcastle, you might recognize some of the places. And there on the left-hand side, that's the city centre. And the area is a map of all the places where the children live. But I've made it fantastical. I've made it magical. So rather than having the place names there, we have the anagrams of those place names. So Shieldfield, which is a area near the school, is the Idle Elf Hides. Hotspur is Usthorpe. There we've got our logo. The Ousburn Valley is Blue Sun Overlay. Biker is Kirby Town, and so on. So we had this map, and then we posted it out to all of the children within the school with very little explanation as to why we were posting it out, what it was for, and every child in the school received this in the post. And then along with that, we gave them a little bit of information once they digested it. Look at the map. What can you see? What do you notice? What do you wonder? Have you any idea what the quest might be about? And we asked every family to choose a name for their family and the people living in the home. It might be an anagram, such as the anagrams on the map. And they might have their own ideas. And it might be linked to the school's core values. And we asked each family to design a family flag and to use a luggage label as well, to have their family name and their motto on it. Now, at the time, everyone was at home. We were obviously isolating. So this was a really good way of the children to connect with the school. And although they couldn't access the school, they could still walk down past the school. And we asked everyone to design their luggage label. So it's very open-ended, lots of freedom for creativity, and to hang it on the school gates outside as part of this narrative to do with the quest. And then on the next image here, we've got a photo of what that looked like. So there's some children already arriving at the school, posting their luggage labels on it. And each luggage label was completely different, reflected the family, what they wanted to say. And it made the children feel really connected to the school. It was very exciting. So the whole project was based on a fantastical narrative that allowed the children lots of opportunities to get involved creatively. Every teacher within the school was playing a role within this, a sort of a fantasy role, a magical role. I had a cloak and a long wig, and we would post videos on the school website and give children challenges. each week as the weeks went by, and it made a really memorable experience. As it went on, with the narrative, if I go back to the map, you can see at the top, there was this area called Afranius, and there was a dragon there, and we had some teachers dressed as people who were stuck in Afranius, and they were asking the children of us, the Hotspurites, the children of our school, for their help. And then as part of that, we said, should we help these people? Should we help these people with their message? Is it a trap? We don't know. So we then sent out a referendum slip to every family, and they had to decide as a school from their homes, are we going to help these people out in these far off lands who need our help? And then everyone sent in their referendum slips, and then we decided, yes, we should help these people out, and we should save them from what they're fearing. So that's what we did. We helped them. And then at the end of the project, we asked everyone to celebrate, because we realized that the people on the other side of this wall in our story, they were just the same as you and I. And it was a really good project to bring everyone together. So at the end, we asked everyone to celebrate together, either in any way they liked, whether it be to make a cake or design a costume, create a song, a piece of music, a play, a dance, some bunting, etc. And then we pieced that all together and created a video. And I've got a little video now I'd like to share with you, which will show you some of the things that the children created. So I'm just going to stop share my PowerPoint, and I'm going to move across to my window open here. Share. Great. Okay, so stop share there. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Hopefully I get this right. Share. Zoom slide. Here we go. Great. That's good. That worked. Excellent. So it was a really memorable experience for all the children involved. It was great because children were putting up their own artwork in their windows. So around our local area, you could even see people engaging with it from their homes, even though they couldn't, leave and access the school at the time. And we felt it was just a real refuge from some of the more unpleasant things that were going on in our country and across the world, and also the stresses that obviously a lot of families were under. The project created a real refuge for that, and an opportunity to have a freedom to create outside of the curriculum, which leads us on to the next project. So this project here took place this year in the January, February, March of this year, when the school went into another lockdown. Now this time, the curriculum was a little bit stronger. We had a bit more direction in terms of what the home learning that we were expected to deliver. So that was quite focused in terms of what we were supposed to be delivering. The project that I led on was extracurriculum. It was outside of that. It was called the Hotspur Arts Lab. And the Hotspur Arts Lab was inspired for me by the arts labs of the 1960s. In the 1960s, a number of cities up and down the country had arts labs. And the intent of those arts labs were to have a safe space for people to have the freedom to create an experiment. There was no end product. There was no final thing to create. It was all about the process and allowing young people the chance to have that freedom to create. And out of the Arts Lab, we've had great artists from it. David Bowie, most famously, was a huge advocate of the Arts Lab that he was involved in, and the comic book writer Alan Moore as well. So that was kind of what I had in mind when creating the Arts Lab at Hotspur. How it worked was I would create a YouTube video every week with a colleague, and we would deliver a session on different artists. We would talk about that artist or art movement, and then we would give an example of how you would create something based on that artist, inspired by them. The artists and art movements that we looked at included pop art, Inuit art, Henry Matisse, environmental art, Kandinsky, Aboriginal. So a real range of different art forms and artists there. And actually what we found was that it was hugely popular. It had the highest level of engagement across the board in terms of the home learning that we were delivering. Because a lot of we had a few children within the school, but the majority of children were still home learning, unable to come to school, but they could still come to just outside the school entrance. So how it worked was I would deliver the session online, and then we would encourage people to create their work at home, and then a choice. They could either send in some of their work digitally, or, which was really exciting, they could bring their work to the school gates. And outside the school gates, we had a letterbox, a Hotspur Arts letterbox, where children and their grown-ups were able to post in the work that they'd created. And from that work, we then took it all away, and I'll show you what we did with it next. But maybe it'd be a good idea to show you a little example from one of the videos. One of the inspirations for the Hotspur Arts Lab was also this book, which I've got on the screen, Maybe Something Beautiful, which is a true story about a young girl in America who was fed up with the drab nature of her local environment. She felt that it was bringing her down. It was very grey and drab and a bit grim. So she decided to decorate her immediate area with chalk paintings, she's putting pictures up on a wall, and it spread like wildfire. It went viral in her local area, and pretty soon the whole neighborhood was creating art and getting on board with this. That was kind of what we had in mind for the intent of Hotspur Arts Lab. We wanted to reinvigorate the local area, bring some colour back for what was otherwise a quite gloomy winter in 2021 at the start of the year. So I'll show you a little clip from one of our Hotspur Arts Lab videos, which is about environmental art. What a fantastic book, and a really inspiring one too. Which leads us on to this week's Hotspur Arts Lab. I just want to go back to something the muralist said. He said, "You, my friends, are all artists," he told them. "The world is your canvas." Well, we have been so impressed by all the fantastic artwork that you've been bringing in through Tapestry, Showbie, via email, or through our Hotspur Arts Lab letterbox. And today, I'm going to show you how you, the Hotspurites, who we all know are artists, can use your environment, your neighbourhood, our neighbourhood, as a canvas. Let's go and find out more. So, that was a true story about East Village near San Diego, California, in America, which was a very grey and drab place until a group of artists, mums and dads, teachers and other people from the community got together and transformed their environment, filling it with colour. You could do the same. Why not decorate your windows in your home as a gallery for passers-by? Bring colour to the outside of your homes. Here at Hotspur, work has already begun on transforming our environment and the surrounding gates around the school. Very soon they will be filled with the work that you have been doing as part of the Hotspur Arts Lab. Now, another way to transform your environment is to create your very own environmental art.
Environmental art is brilliant because all the resources you need are lying around on the ground. So the next time you go out for a walk, perhaps to your local park, pick up some of the sticks and leaves, pine cones and conkers on the ground and create your very own environmental art around you. You might want to create a pattern or recreate an animal that you like. Remember not to pull out any living plants though, that's important. Now, Miss Ritson and I have already started to create some of our very own environmental art. Let's have a look. I've created a face. This is art attack. Send in your photographs of your environmental art. Let's illuminate our surroundings. Let's transform our environment with art. Let's make passers-by who stop looking on the ground and or on their phones and take notice of the wonderful art that we create around us and transform our community. We look forward to seeing some of your fantastic creative adventures. Take care, everybody. See you next week.
See, those last images weren't things that we created. Those were just some examples of environmental art. I'm gonna go back to the PowerPoint now. Resume slideshow. There we go. So yes, so it had the highest level of engagement across the learning that we were delivering online, but also it was accessible for all. You saw there, the environmental art really was accessible for all. Like I mentioned at the start, we've got a very mixed demographic. We've got some children from very social and economically disadvantaged backgrounds. So by having lessons like that, and then everyone was able to access it. Equally so, if we did have a workshop or a arts lab session where we use art resources, what we did was we said, if you would like to come to the school office, there are art resources there available for you, should you not have them at home. So I'm now going to share some of the brilliant work that the children did in response. This is a group of children who were accessing school work at the time, doing some work inspired by Kandinsky, part of a Hotspur Arts Lab. And the Arts Lab just allowed the children to have that freedom to play, to experiment. There's a really good Ken Robinson quote, which is, "The exile of play is one of the great tragedies of standardized education." And this was just a brilliant opportunity for those children to have the chance to play. And here's some of the images that the children brought in for our inside displays, and Kandinsky and Aboriginal art there from across the school. And the feedback we got from parents was excellent. But the stuff which was really exciting was the outdoor display, where we were able to back it up onto wood and to decorate the railings around the school with their artwork. And what that meant was that when the children did eventually return to school, it was a transition for them that was a little bit easier, because they were able to see the work that they'd created at home, welcoming them back to the school as they returned. And there it is there, really great stuff. And obviously, when the children returned to school, there was a lot of concerns with regards to their emotional and social well-being. And we felt like the Hotspur Arts Lab was helping them with that transition. Once they returned to school, the school's intent and focus shifted slightly. We concentrated on the 4 R's as a school, which are reconnection, re-establishment, resilience, and recovery. And those 4 R's were the influence on the next case study I'd like to share with you, which is the Great Hotspur Festival. This is once the children were all back in school. Once they were all back in school, I put up a poster around the school, inside and outside, which you can see on the left there. Missing, have you seen this suitcase? It was last seen at Hotspur Primary School. Please let your teacher know if you have seen it. Warning, do not try and open it. Now that created quite a bit of excitement across the school. What is this? What's this about? Have you seen a suitcase? And the amount of children that said they saw the suitcase and yet we hadn't even revealed it was amazing. And then one day, the suitcase was revealed. It was on the schoolyard, and one by one, the classes went out to see the suitcase. And we had a sort of mantle of the expert approach to this, where the classes would go out and we would discuss, ooh, what is this here for? Why is it here? What's this about? On the suitcase was a luggage label, and on the luggage label, it was written, to unlock this suitcase, make this space magical. The space being the outdoor space at school. So then the children would go back to their classrooms and discuss, what does that mean? To unlock this suitcase, make this space magical again. Sorry, I should have said again. And then as a class, the children would discuss, what have we missed over the last year? Well, we've missed creating, performing, and singing, certain things that we haven't been able to do because of the restrictions. So on the back of that, over the next few weeks, every class within the school started to do those things. They learned some songs within the classroom that they hadn't sang for a very long time. We also had drama workshops from Kappa Pi Theatre, cookery workshops from Food Nation. Children created samba performances. We had a rapper come in working with the year sixes, and the children created wearable art as well. Then at the very end of creating all those things, the children weren't really sure what the purpose was. But at the very end, I went round the school with the suitcase and said, thank you for creating all those things that we've missed over the past couple of years. And then because of that, we can open the suitcase. And inside the suitcase was a letter. And on the letter was an invitation to a special event on the top yard at 1:45. And because they had completed those tasks, we felt as a school we'd been able to achieve those 4 R's. We were reconnected. We had re-established ourselves. The children had shown resilience and a recovery as well. And because we complete those 4 R's, we introduced a 5th R, which was the reuniting. And this was really lovely because it was the first time the whole school had been able to get together. I mean, it was July at this point. And we were able to do it outside. We weren't able to do this inside because of restrictions. And it was a showcase of everything that the children had been creating. So you can see in the photograph there, the wearable art, the samba playing, the rapping, the dancing, and everybody had an invested interest in this, and everybody brought something to it, and everybody's contribution was validated and felt important. And I'm going to share a couple of videos, if you don't mind, from that really special day. So I'll stop sharing here and move across. First video I'd like to share with you is from the procession, the start of the parade. Now, there we go. Pause that there. And then the next video is, so once the parade had completed, we managed to get ourselves sat in the round, everybody wearing their wearable art, and we showcased some of the work that the children had created. And that obviously wasn't the children, but that was the staff. a flash mob steel pans performance, which we'd rehearsed the day before. And this is the first time the children sang all together as well.
I'm gonna shine. I'm gonna shine. I'm gonna shine.
So it's a really special and memorable day. I'll just go back to my PowerPoint now. So one of the influences for me for this project and bringing the community together, having the opportunity for people to create art where it was all validated and children had the freedom to experiment, was the Welfare State International Theatre Group, who are a big inspiration for myself. And they felt like they had a moral duty of offering art on the same level as education and health. And they created immersive total art events where they turned audience of strangers into communities, which is kind of what we were which was kind of the inspiration for that project. And also another project which we did before the pandemic, which was the Blazing World. Blazing World was a really special project because that was completely child-led. In the school, we use Thrive Online, which some of you might be familiar with. Thrive is it's a whole school practice that we use. It's all about the emotional and social well-being of children. Each teacher screens their class to see where the children are in terms of their emotional and social well-being. And from that, we can see if there's any gaps in individual social and emotional well-being. And those gaps are then plugged by using the arts and using creative activities. So we had 6 fantastic children who led this project, and they were identified as, you know, perhaps having needs where they're in terms of their emotional social development. And they led the project. The project was inspired by The Blazing World, a 1666 novel by Margaret Cavendish, who interestingly was the first ever science fiction writer. She was a woman, and she was also from Newcastle. She was the Duchess of Newcastle. So a portal appeared in the school, and similar to the suitcase, that gave a lot of intrigue and mystique. What's this portal about? Who's behind it? And then we had an actor appear as Margaret Cavendish, who said that she needed to get back to her time frame, and she needed help from the children to get back to the blazing world, which was her world. And the Blazing World is all about utopias. So that this group of children then discussed, what are utopias? How can we create a utopia on our school grounds? And they decided where that might lead, and they created some of the work surrounding that. They designed wearable art for all the school. They even got a flatbed truck and turned it into a steampunk spaceship. It was really, really great. So I'm going to share a little video from that. Share. This is from the final of The Blazing World, the finale, when we brought all the school together.
Small people, large people, or should I say, assorted animal people of Hotspur School, welcome to the Blazing World.
I wish I could swim like dolphins can swim. Though nothing
school, I ask you, have you completed that very important task I set you? Brilliant, well then.
Don't pretend that you don't care. Come and help us crocodiles and say our prayer. Dystopia will be unfurled, so keep calm and save the blazing world.
You have been the best champions my people could have asked for. It is all thanks to your generosity, your creativity, and your individuality. You have really shown me the meaning of friendship and of kindness. Now, small people of Hotspur School, the time has come for me to leave you, and you, in turn, must return to your own world, which is very, very lucky to have you.
Oh, there we go. I absolutely love watching that so much. It's really special. I love watching it so much that I've forgotten how to. Oh, here we go. I'm going to go back into the PowerPoint. I'm just conscious of time, and I've realised there's a few things I still want to say, but you know, it'd be nice to just have 5 minutes at the end to chat as well. You share. Okay, back in, great. So the aim of that project was to minimise the barriers of learning and help develop emotional well-being with a view of improving progress of a few underperforming children. And that's the group there that led it. And they literally led the whole procession at the end. They were at the front with the utopian banner. So although they didn't feel like they were performing, they were intrinsically performing and a part of it, which goes back to the community of practice idea that I mentioned earlier. And the whole project, just like the previous couple of projects as well, were all about creating a safe space to make art, to make mistakes, to reflect, to celebrate themselves, to celebrate the children's individual selves. So that brings me on to a little quote, another quote from a hero of mine, the late Ken Robinson. Children are naturally curious. Stimulating learning means keeping their curiosity alive. This is why practical, inquiry-based teaching can be so powerful. In place of offering answers to questions they haven't asked, provoke questions in students so they are inspired to explore them. And that kind of links up a lot of the projects that we've looked at. They were all memorable experiences. They all used art to illuminate all the subjects, and they were big as well. It's really important to plan big, and then, you know, gradually as you go down, you have to scale things down a little bit. And it's also really important to tap into their strengths and believe in colleagues' strengths. So these projects couldn't be done if it wasn't for the help of all the other colleagues across the school. But having everyone invested in it and believing in everyone's ability meant that we were all able to work collectively to create magical, memorable experiences. And I always say, you know, in 15, 20 years' time, the children at the school won't remember doing Key Stage 2 SATs, but they will remember being part of special whole school projects such as the things you've seen there. And if it helps along the way, even better. I don't think I've got time to go into this. I was going to do another quick drawing exercise at the end. A big inspiration of mine is Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards, which is there on the right. And I know the left and right hand side of the brain theories have sort of been pushed out in more recent years, but for me, it really taps into something quite interesting, which I talked about at the start, in that when we go to draw or when we go to start a creative task, we tend to use our more verbal, analytical and sequential side of our brain. And that's why we find it quite difficult. Drawing on the right-hand side of the brain creates opportunities to sort of put that aside and to open up and free open the visual, perceptual, simultaneous side of our brain. And freeing ourselves up allows us to create more freely. Artists often talk about being in the flow, or when they are creating, they're almost a mystical mindset. And that's what we try to do through the drawing exercises. So one exercise that Betty Edwards did, which was a real breakthrough, was drawing Picasso upside down. And some of you might be familiar with this. One day I asked my students to copy a Picasso drawing upside down. That small experiment, more than anything else I had tried, showed that something very different is going on during the act of drawing. To my surprise, and to the students' surprises, the finished drawings were so extremely well done that I asked the class, how come you can draw upside down when you can't draw right side up? The students responded, upside down, we didn't know what we were drawing. So that goes back to the idea, if we're going to draw something the right way, our brain automatically thinks, right, I need to draw an eye. And then we're thinking analytically. But drawing upside down means that we're breaking things down and concentrating on the smaller details, which leads them to this brilliant drawing exercise that I can't recommend enough, the pure contour drawing. And it's a technique to break through the inner critic and overcome seeing mistakes as negatives. So how it would work would be that you would ask the student to draw the sort of their hand that they don't write or draw with, and to hold that hand up in a creased position and to really concentrate on drawing every single little line, every single tiny detail. Now, this is all non-useful and boring information that we don't have an analytical or verbal framework to interfere with. And so what that means, it frees us up. And what we get from that is something beautiful and quite interesting as well. And then by doing that, it frees us up to the next drawing exercise or the next creative exercise that we might go in to do. And a lot of artists use this at the start of their creative process. And I've talked a lot, so I'm going to stop talking now. But thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate everyone coming here today. I've never done one of these before. So it's a new thing for me. And it's been really a privilege to share the school's learning journey with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jack. Found that really, really brilliant. A lovely workshop. And what was wonderful to see was how happy the children are in your school. They're just, creativity is just, you know, it's a wonderful thing, isn't it? And the child-led approach you've got, it was just wonderful to see. Such magical and memorable quests that they'll remember forever. So thank you on behalf of Culture Bridge North East. That was wonderful. I wonder if anyone has any questions. There hasn't been any in the chat, but we do have a couple of minutes to go if anyone has any burning questions. And I'm sure Jack won't mind if you get in touch with him afterwards, if you have anything you'd like to kind of ask questions about. Please either just unmute and ask a question or pop it in the box. I'll just give you a minute to think.
Don't feel obliged, but so if you do want
comments,
to or ask me anything afterwards, you know, I'm always happy to connect with people and yeah.
Lovely. There's some lovely comments coming up in the chat there. Thank you. So thank you to all the delegates for today for coming. I hope you had a really good time. So that's it from us for now. I've just got a couple of things to wrap up with. Today's workshop has been recorded, so it will be available on the CBNE YouTube channel from next week, and we're going to pop that into the chat so you can see it, and we'll also send that out afterwards so you've got the link. And Danny is just about to put the link into the chat for our feedback form, and that's just to kind of give us some thoughts about the session. I'd be really grateful if you could fill that in, and it just helps us to build future programs, so we know what you'd like to see from CBNE in the future. We've got loads more Imagine If happening for the rest of the week, so if you're not booked onto sessions, please have a look and see. We've got a great one on Friday. We've got some places left on that one. That's the Lego Foundation one, so have a look and see if there's any more you'd like to come along to. They're all free, and the link's going to be in the chat. So there we go. That's it from us, and thank you again, Jack, so much for today, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thanks very much. Thanks for those nice messages too. That means a lot. Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.